everybody, and welcome to On the Move, TMSA's new podcast, where we share transportation sales and marketing success stories. I am Jennifer Carpus-Romain, the Executive Director at TMSA, which is a trade nonprofit in the transportation and logistics space that helps educate and connect marketing and sales professionals. Today, we will be talking with Beth Malik, who is Senior Director of Marketing at CMC3, and she's TMSA's President-elect. She'll be announced as TMSA's President at our upcoming Elevate conference. Welcome to our first show, Beth.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here, Jen. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm really excited for us to kind of usher in our era of Beth as we move forward into your presidency come June. But people might not know kind of how you got to the industry. I was actually really excited. I've known you for many years now, but I've never creeped out your LinkedIn in the same way that I did prepare for this. And you've actually worked at a lot of cool companies. So tell us a little bit about your journey and your career that got you to this point.
Sure, Jen. So something many people don't know about me is my path to supply chain was very intentional. I earned my undergraduate degree in supply chain and business logistics, it was called then, at Penn State University. So I'm a Nittany Lion fan through and through. And Penn State had an excellent recruiting program for that major. I chose to accept an offer with Kimberly-Clark my senior year. And so a week after I graduated, I found myself at a manufacturing plant in North Carolina. And my first job out of school for a couple of years was doing everything logistics, really. They're ordering raw materials, scheduling production, scheduling transportation, optimizing inventory levels across the board, and working really as a logistics lead on a team of engineers and operations experts. So started in supply chain, and for about 10 years, I worked in various supply chain roles at Kimberly-Clark, starting out in the trenches, like I just described, really, and then moving on into more strategic roles. After that, I was able to make a jump. I jumped out of supply chain into a business management position where I had experience working with sales and marketing every day. And I found that I really loved that customer-facing side of the business. And through that exposure to those teams and those people, I decided I wanted to make a career pivot into marketing. And that's where I've stayed. So, at Kimberly-Clark, I became a product manager, a brand manager. I eventually left Kimberly-Clark for a marketing director role at Zepp Chemical. And then while I was there, one day SMC3 found me, or we found each other, I think, and I felt the organization was a perfect fit with my background and that I'm exactly where I should be today. I'm in a marketing leadership role at an organization, a logistics technology company, serving our industry and our community where I started my career. So I feel like I kind of came full circle in and out supply chain, marketing, and back in marketing and transportation.
Well, I love that story because so many people that I interview and get to talk to in this industry are like, oh, I landed here and then I never, got out. People always say once you hear, you stay here. So I'm curious, what was it about supply chain that intrigued you so much to make you want to be here forever?
In supply chain, I kind of think supply chain is, since where I started and where I came from, is kind of in my DNA at this point. And I think I didn't even mention my father also worked in the industry, so it actually might really be in my DNA. So I'm not quite sure. But we talk about especially transportation and logistics in many ways as the lifeblood of our economy and affecting so many people in so many aspects of our day-to-day life. And for me, there's a real sense of pride in working with this industry, working for SMC3, serving on the board at TMSA, both being purpose-driven organizations serving the transportation industry. So there's that, and I think this industry really thrives on collaboration and fosters a close-knit community. One example of that is the Transportation Marketing and Sales Association. It's the place for sales and marketing professionals to unite, connect, and grow and advance our careers. And, being part of the association, there's a sense of community inside it that we are in this together to lift each other up and lift the industry up. So there's just a lot of reasons to be grateful for this industry and take pride in working in it.
I love that so much. And you mentioned TMSA, which is, obviously, hopefully people at least know who we are a little bit if they're watching this. But if you don't, you can learn more about us at tmsatoday.org. But one thing people might know is, yes, you are our president-elect, but you are about to hit your 10-year mark on the board of directors at TMSA, which is a really long time serve. And our organization is hitting 100 years this year. And so you've served on the board for 1/10 of its existence. And what about TMSA? What have you found here? Why did you join the board? Why did you stay? And why did you agree to become our next board leader?
Oh, there's a lot in there, right?
There is a lot. It's really simple questions.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, like 10 years, right? Time flies when you're having fun. So I consider 10 years a long time, but I don't really consider 1/10 a big number. So the 100-year mark is an amazing achievement for the association. I'll say, like, first off here, it's been a great honor to serve on the board these past years. And, I became involved with TMSA when I joined SMC3 as a member, and not long after becoming involved, I joined the board. So I was asked to join the board, and I served in various roles over the time, roles at large, roles on the finance committee, most recently on the executive team as the treasurer. And why I stayed on the board specifically, you asked. I would think a couple of things come to mind. First, I believe in the TMSA's mission, and I'm passionate about giving back to the industry that has been such a huge part of my growth in my career. And then another reason is the people I've had the opportunity to collaborate with on the board, including our leadership, including our executive director, including you, Jen. You look at our board, and there is such a breadth and depth of industry knowledge and talent serving the industry that team is truly inspiring, and is a reason to stay working for our members of the association. And there's always something that I can learn from them.
I agree. I think the group of people we have and watching the new people come in and breathe fresh life into that too has been really exciting. I started at TMSA as a member, and I felt that purpose too, that drive to continue forward with the association. And that's kind of what led me here. And it's been really exciting to watch us continue to grow, have new people come in, watch kind of the old guard embrace everybody, and just really it's all about making the industry better, making sales and marketing more efficient, and everybody learning and growing in a space together, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
I am curious. So I know that, like we said, you've been on the board for about 10 years. And I think that it is a service. I think people might just think that going on a board of directors is like putting your name to put on your LinkedIn profile or something like that, but it is a commitment. And I was wondering if you had any advice for people who are thinking about joining a board of directors on what that actually means, and advice on how to pick the right ones for you.
Sure. So I think the first thing when you're thinking of a board or asked to serve on a board that you really need to understand at the highest level is that board a working board, or is it a governance board? So there's two different main types of boards, and a governing board takes only governance responsibilities, which is a big deal, not minimize it. It's a very important type of board, but it's not involved with the day-to-day activities of the organization. Whereas a working board, on the other hand, it undertakes the governance, but it's also the members are actively participating in the organization's daily activities. So there's different types of boards and different commitments that you're making depending on the type of board. And especially in a working board scenario, I think you really need to understand how you can directly contribute on the board, what that time commitment most likely looks like. You talk to other board members, talk to who's asking you to be on the board, really get an understanding of the time commitment and your passion for being involved in that organization, because a lot of times that can impact the amount of time we will make for something. So if you're considering being on a board, and it's certainly flattering to be asked to join a board, if you don't think those things align, it's probably better to give that board seat to someone else and look for something that aligns more with what where your passion lies and your time and your commitment. So, TMSA is a working board, and we are all volunteers with demanding jobs outside of TMSA. So TMSA really needs a strong and passionate board. And we have that in place today. So it's just so exciting, as you said, Jen, looking at the whole group and the differences that we bring that we can embrace and learn from and make the association better and give our time to do so. I would say one too. Sorry to cut you off, but I was just thinking our different board members, like if you're not being asked to sign up for a board or come to a board, if you're passionate about an association, use TMSA as an example, but it doesn't have to be TMSA. Don't just sit back if you think you might want to be a board member someday and wait to be asked. Ask current board members about their path, express your curiosity and your interest, ask for their advice, and get yourself on the radar.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. And I think depending on the different organizations that you're interested in, there might be, so like at TMSA, we have committees. And that's when I'm asked, hey, do you have any recommendations for the board? That's the first place I look, is community or committee engagement, how people are contributing. We always want to have different voices and different types of perspectives on our board. That's something we've worked really hard on over the past couple of years. And so seeing where people fit in, what their perspective is, what their workload is, what they're willing to contribute is a huge part of it. And I agree when you said your time commitment and understanding what time you're supposed to give, but also you've been here for 10 years. That's a pretty long time for a board. What is the tenure of most board members? That's something to know too, because if you're I'm going to be here for a year and then leave, maybe that isn't the best, but in other boards, that's perfectly normal. And that's what people contribute. So just really kind of understanding. And then one thing that Mark Dirks, who's our current president, so very early on when I took on the role of executive director, started working with him as board president. And then I was getting ready to go on my first board was actually being on the board of TMSA. And then obviously I left my board seat when I became the executive director. But outside of TMSA, I was getting ready to join a board. And he said, every person who serves on a board should think about what they will contribute and the legacy that they will leave behind. And those words have stayed with me through the past 2 years. It's something I bring up in my other boards that I serve on and tell people, especially when we get really in the weeds and everyone's thinking about what is the legacy? What is our impact? What are we really trying to focus on right now? So I'm curious, as you're about to take on your own presidency, if you have any goals of what that will look like for you.
Sure. Yes. Mark and I have talked about that as well.
Probably tells everyone about it. I don't feel special.
I didn't mean it like that, Jen. We've been talking about the importance of it, right? As he's moving, he's not moving anywhere. He's moving out to chairman. So, but for every board member to really think about it, not just the leadership, like the president or the chairman or the executive team. So, when I look at the next couple of years, look back, I guess, at the past couple of years, there's been a large amount of effort and accomplishments made in modernizing our association, changing and optimizing systems and processes and people while innovating our member programs at the same time. And all of that is going to need to continue. So that work will be continuing. But when you ask about the next 2 years in an association that's been here for 100 years, I think it really puts it into perspective and easy to see that like all of us that are here today on the board, the members, the committee members, we'll only be here for a finite and small portion of this association's existence. And as the TMSA continues this path of growth, we need to make sure that we're structured correctly for this, and for the ones that will take our places and set the association up for even greater continued success moving forward into the next 100 years and beyond. So we started a little bit of that work now, but I know that will be part of the next 2 years as well.
Mm-hmm. And fun fact for anybody listening, but one of the things I'm really proud about of what we've done over the past couple of years is launching our DEI task force that really focuses on being more inclusive and equitable. But people have asked, like, oh, Beth is coming in as president. Is she the first female president of the board? And I say, absolutely not. She will be the third one, which is really, really cool to say. And I'm not going to say when the first one was, because we are using it as a trivia question in our social media in the upcoming weeks. But I will be interviewing her, the first female to ever be board president on this show in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned to that. But what has that evolution been like for you being in the industry and seeing, I do feel like there is a lot more women and there is a lot more diversity. We still have a lot more space to grow, but kind of what has that evolution been like for you?
Oh, we definitely have space to grow. But I would say, having been in the industry, like back when I started in supply chain, and I would be the only female in the room. It was very common for me. That was the norm, really. So I didn't really think about it. And so we have come so far since then, with women coming into the industry, into roles, into leadership in general, like across the board, across functions. But people always do talk about, we don't have enough women in supply chain or logistics or transportation, which I agree with, but we have made progress, let's say, over my time for sure. And we're just going to continue to going forward. I see it now, even at conferences. I know TMSA is a little, it's for marketing and sales professionals in the association. So I think our mix is a little bit different sometimes than some other industry conferences. Mm-hmm. And I look at we have 2 conferences a year that we host at SMC3, Jumpstart and Connections. And even since I've been there, that mix has changed, and there's so many more women now than we had even 10 years ago. So it's exciting to see, and I don't think it's going to stop.
I agree. I think that we're on a forward momentum of just really thinking through how we are approaching different types of people into the industry. And I love what you said about more women coming into leadership positions as well, because I think that's one of the misconceptions when we talk about bringing more women or different ethnicities into your organization, is that it's not just a box check saying, oh, we have this many employees. It's okay, we have these employees, but how do we elevate them? How do we help them up the ladder? How do we get them into the leadership so that we are then hearing all of these voices when we are making company decisions? So I loved that you made that point too, because we are seeing more and more.
And it's not just like, well, like you said, well, we've got one up there, so check the box and let's move on. Like what's next, with all the initiatives. So I guess we can always improve, but we have made progress.
Mm-hmm. So we will be celebrating you will be named president at our Elevate show, which is June 9th through 11th in New Orleans. If anyone hasn't registered yet, you can do so at events.tmsatoday.org. It's where we are doing our big 100-year celebration for the organization. We have a great speaker lineup. We have all this optional networking that we've added into the program this year. I'm curious, what are you looking forward to most for this year's Elevate conference?
There's so much to look forward to, Jen. So I don't know. There's the location, the networking, the educational content. There's a port tour. There's a ghost tour. There's like so much going on. I'm looking forward to a surprise that will take place at the conference that I'm not allowed to talk about. And but be there for the beginning. And the thing I'm looking forward to the most is just seeing the TMSA community in person, spending time with them, learning, laughing together, and all of the above things that I've talked about too. I mean, it's going to be an amazing experience.
Yes. If there's one thing that you wish that people knew about TMSA, what would it be?
I would like thinking back of what we talked about today already. I think there's some really, I've had a really positive experience, and I was talking about my role primarily on the board while we had our discussion. And I want people to know that all these fantastic things we've talked about from my seat, you don't have to be on the board to get these advantages. So any member of TMSA can get involved on committees that you've mentioned already, where all the great work and collaboration takes to advance the association goals. The committees are stronger than I've ever seen them. And it's so exciting what they do. And when you're on a committee, you collaborate with people across the industry, just like on the board. So there are many committees at TMSA, if you don't know about them already, like education committees, planning our events or conferences or speakers, membership programs, marketing initiatives, member recognition. I'm at finance. I was on the finance committee. And I do want to say, Jen, you already brought it up, but I'm very proud to say we launched the DEI task force this year as well, that we've got volunteers on. So there's so many ways to get involved that all you need to do is ask.
Yes, and I will say to you, one of the things I'm most proud of about myself, but also like the board leadership team, is everyone's always really willing to listen. So we know that the needs of sales and marketing professionals have changed over the course of time, and it continues to change. We want to know how to best serve our members and how to best serve the industry. So I have conversations with previous members, prospective members, new members, all of the time, just kind of getting that understanding of how we can continue to evolve as an organization. And I love working with the board and all of our committees. And then there's just people who are like, I don't have the time commitment to serve. How else can I help? So if we need people to do like testimonials or anything like that, there's a ton of people. Or I had this logo. I had a member help me, the On the Move logo. I was like, hey, can you help me make this logo for our new podcast series? And she said, absolutely. And we collaborated on that. It's just a really great space. And I tell people I love the bits of vulnerability that even happen. This industry is awesome, but it can be really challenging too. And so trying to navigate that and navigate your role and having people there to kind of back you up is really important. And I feel like we're finally moving forward and people realize we are a trade nonprofit. Everything that we do is to serve the industry. But that was something that when I first took this position, people were really surprised by, that they were like, what? Like we didn't realize that. So, and we've tried to improve or grow our programming with some of those things too, like our Purpose Award category, which the live event will be a virtual event that will announce our Purpose Award winners on Thursday, and you can sign up for that here. So really, really excited about that. And then we will announce our rising stars and our trailblazers at Elevate, and then the mountain movers are at Executive Summit. So really recognizing all of the work and all of the people in the industry. Yeah. So I have one last question for you. It's my favorite question that I ask everybody who comes on any interview I do with them. But if you could go back in time and advise a younger Beth anything, personally, professionally, when would you go back to, and what would you say to her?
Personally or professionally?
Either. You can pick.
Okay, yeah, I'm questioning, like, what? Drink more water, less Diet Coke. No, but I would do that to my younger self. I think that I would go back, more, toward the start of my career. It would be great to tell myself everything is going to work out just fine, but then, you might not work as hard to get there. So I think I would go back there though. And what I don't think I did, at least consciously, in my younger self then, was to use the power of like positive thinking when framing challenging situations. And it's easy to think worst case scenarios and catastrophizing scenarios, which most likely won't happen. And I think back then I spent a lot of time probably stressing out about this worst case scenario that probably wasn't going to happen, instead of focusing on, what could go wrong, really making that effort and conscious decision to focus on what could go right from a situation, even if your outcome's not your best case scenario. So I think that's something that I try to do consciously now. I certainly didn't back then. I think I probably spent a lot of time stressing out about things that I shouldn't have been. But like we talked about earlier, you stress because you care. So it's, you don't get rid of it completely.
You don't. Yeah, I saw this meme the other day that was like, for every worst case scenario thought you have, then give equal time to the best case scenario thought. And it seemed ludicrous to me because I was like, who can do that? Like, it's such good advice, but like, yeah, you have to really train your brain to do that. And it's not always easy, but that I think about that. So I think that's really good that you are able to at least attempt to actively.
I attempt. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being our first official guest on the On the Move podcast. If you want to see Beth get named officially president of the TMSA, join us in New Orleans, June 9th through 11th. You can register at events.tmsatoday.org. And if you're interested in getting involved in TMSA, whether that is future of the board of directors or a committee or anything like that, you can learn more at tmsatoday.org/get-involved. So thank you for listening, and thank you, Beth, not only for being here today, but for all the hard work that you do for TMSA, and looking forward to working even closer together over the next 2 years.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. And everybody can catch us next week if you're interested in learning about the educational lineup at Elevate. We'll have education co-chair Holly Laboda on the show. So see us at 12 p.m. Eastern on May 1st. Catch you all next week.